My next guest has been on the show a couple of times, both for different documentaries he co-directed. This time, my bestie, Devin Gallagher, returns to talk to me about his new podcast, Media on the Radio. A podcast about the business of media through the eyes of professionals and teaches how to break into the media field. You may even hear yours truly on an episode. Devin, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me on, man.
It's my pleasure. All right, man. So I kind of know this, but the audience doesn't. What inspired you to create Media on the Radio?
So I think what really inspired me to create Media on the Radio was having worked at Arlington Independent Media for 8 years, and just seeing kind of the people come through the door from varied parts of the media field. A lot of people actually say, for example, somebody working at Discovery, but they're working behind a desk, they're clearing images, they're working on a computer all day.
Yeah.
And they want to break in and try and work in the production side. So we have people and we have trainings for that. But what I was finding was it was really interesting to start to talk to some of these media professionals and see kind of the different trends within the media field.
And what would you say is your target audience that you're going for with the podcast?
I think anybody who's studying communications, journalism, radio, television production in college, as well as anyone, as I mentioned, that's trying to transition out of a job. So it talks a lot about professional development in terms of the media field. And the media field is changing every 5 years. So kind of getting a case study of all these different people and working in all these different media jobs. Well, what are people looking for? What are the skills that you need to be learning now so that you're ready in 5 years?
Yeah, and I definitely think you tackle that, which is kind of cool because some of the people that you talk with, you kind of ask them about their kind of break-in, how they got in, and I think it's definitely great for like college students who probably are listening to the podcast, on their way to school or whatever the case may be, and they can really get some in-depth insight. How many episodes have you actually recorded, and do you have like right now?
So I've recorded somewhere close to 30, and I've got 16 on iTunes right now. The trends that I'm seeing throughout are the move of kind of away from traditional media jobs, meaning people that are working in a newsroom, to media jobs that are in bigger companies. So for the first time, we have a lot of big nonprofits that are hiring media professionals for the first time, or building a studio in their office space and having need for someone to run that studio as opposed to a newsroom that they're going to run.
Right.
And then also on top of that, the big trend is that people need employees that can do 3 or 4 things as opposed to just a photographer. You need to be able to do some graphic design, maybe some web development. And really, the budgets are being cut too. So you need to be able to do more with less, maybe some skills with some iPhone skills with media production. Is what some people are looking for because that's the kind of budget you might be working with.
Right. And it's funny that you mentioned that because even some of my film critic buddies, they go on the red carpet and what do they use? They use their iPhone straight up. They use their iPhone and they hook up like a Rode mic or something like that to get the audio. But literally at the same time, if you think about it, right, the iPhone is so small. You don't have to take the big camera and the lights and all that stuff. And they literally just hold it like this, you get them framed up well, and you just have the interview. So it's interesting that you kind of found that.
Well, it's also, they just released a selfie stick for a MacBook Pro as well.
Stop it, man, no.
Yeah, they did. It's on Twitter.
Selfie stick for a MacBook Pro?
Yeah.
That's heavy.
Well, the new ones are lighter. Yeah.
Okay, that's weird. I got to look that up afterwards. Okay. All right. So what are some of your goals for short-term and long-term for Media on the Radio?
So for now, it's been just honestly, it's an extracurricular activity. So the first one that I did it with Laura McCardle about the new radio station here at Arlington Independent Media, which is WERA. And I ended up spending like 15 hours editing it. And I'm like, I can't do that for every week. I have way too much going on. So I've kind of found a way to economize it and streamline it. But the goal long term is to kind of keep having these conversations. So, because I'm learning a lot, and I'm hoping other people are. But the goal also is to branch out to maybe some other people that I don't know. So I've really kind of centered around friends or friends of friends, because I do want it to maintain some sort of kind of jovial, like you're hanging out with a friend, getting a coffee, and you're talking about the biz, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm afraid of is if I reach out to other people that aren't necessarily connected to me in some way, yeah, they might have a lot of knowledge, but they might really not have anything to say about it. They might not really be that self-reflective about the industry or about themselves. So as I move forward, I'm looking for really unique stories about how people broke in, because I think that's what really people crave. Is the information is good and tips and tricks for breaking into the industry.
Yeah.
But the stories themselves of how people break in is actually what people seem to be liking. So that's the feedback I've been getting.
Yeah, that's cool. And you know, so I kind of, you know, it's no secret we're friends. I've kind of been able to see the behind the scenes as you've slowly developed the podcast. So could you talk a little bit about how you've actually started to develop it? Because I know when you first started out, you're like, this is the idea, this is what I want to do. And like you said, like spending 15 hours editing it. So now I know you kind of have things down to, not a science, I'm sure,
Right.
but you've got things down to like how you want to lay out the podcast. Can you talk a little bit about
Well, I've
creating
become, and I always say this, I'm a way better editor than I am a host. So I edit it for content, but also for to keep it as tight as possible, because I understand people are busy, and you know, we're not bringing on celebrities to talk about how they broke into the media field, besides Kevin Sampson, of course. But the idea is to keep the nuggets really there and keep it compelling and short and something that people can digest, you know, on the way to work.
Yeah.
But with that, it's I record for about a half hour to an hour, and then I cut it down to about 25 minutes. So you're just kind of getting hopefully the good stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been working also with some people, and I've been actually reaching out to other editors or people that want to learn how to edit audio so that they can do a lot of the upfront edits, getting rid of all the ums and the coughs and everything else. Then I can come through and make the creative edits for content. I'm actually finding that I've found some people to make some of the creative edits as well. So
Nice.
I'm building the empire.
Oh man, I gotta steal some of those moves. I gotta get somebody to edit the podcast on mine. I'm not gonna steal it from you. That's awesome though. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, so you and I, we talk about podcasts all the time, right? We talk about, you know, the Art of Manliness podcast you put me onto, and you know, I talk about Denzel Washington is the greatest actor of all time, period, podcast. What is it about podcasts that you think people really enjoy, and why they're so effective these days?
I think it's I do some freelance work, which is something I talk about a lot on the podcast, and I'm actually bringing on people that work in the field commercially to do commercials, videos, working with clients to build media products. And one of the products that I really want to push people towards, and my clients and other people, is podcasts, because it's really cheap to produce, and it's the only, as far as I'm concerned, the only way that you could reach young people for more than 5 minutes on YouTube. It's the only vehicle. They're gonna pick it up, they're gonna walk to work, they're gonna drive to work, take the train. You got them for that 45 minutes. Or they're on the elliptical machine in
Right.
45 minutes. So it's really the only long form of media that really exists that is effective right now, as far as my opinion.
These millennials.
Yeah.
I'm a millennial, so I get to say that I'm a millennial. So yeah, you too.
Yeah.
All right, Dev. So I guess one of the big questions would be, how can people actually listen to the podcast?
Well, I have a blog page that's waitwhatpro.com that people can actually just go on, and there's some pictures and some posts. But also on iTunes, you can, if you have a podcast app, you can download it and you can find it. The numbers have grown from zero.
Right.
Doubling from zero is not the best, but no. It's kind of doubled every month, actually,
Nice.
the numbers, which is I don't know where it's going to plateau, but it seems to be, I've been getting a lot of good feedback, and people seem to be interested in the material.
Yeah.
And what I like about it is the content is helpful. So we're bringing in some people that have worked in the industry for 30 years, and what's their take on the media field. And my bias is, I'm a documentary filmmaker and media trainer, and so I like to talk to documentary filmmakers,
Right.
but also in this area, people in this area, because I think this area is really unique in terms of the media outlets. So I also talk to people in LA and New York and other places, but It kind of centers around this area, and I'm hoping to branch out into other forms of media, like, for example, people that develop apps and people that have startups, because I think that's a big market that people would like to know more about.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, if you were gonna point people to Media on the Radio and you're like, hey, this is one episode you should listen to, you should check this one out, what would it be?
Of course, Kevin Sampson.
I was hoping you would say that. No, okay. Better layup question is what's been one of the things that you've learned so far in your talks, because you're learning at the same time too.
I am,
right?
A lot.
What
things I should have known.
Exactly. Which episode or which person have you talked to and you're like, wow, that was really cool, or I didn't know that.
I think one Christina Sequeira from AJ Plus was really interesting, because I didn't realize how in a short amount of time how much they have grown. In about a year, AJ Plus has grown to have 1 billion hits on all their media outlets or their media channels.
Wow.
And they just have kind of cracked the code in terms of social media video and really reaching audiences with unique but also kind of impactful news, digital journalism that people are copying right now.
Yeah.
And she kind of got into that. She said, I can't really talk about what we're doing next, but she got into some of the things that they are doing over there, and it was really fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting because now even AJ Plus is one of those first people on Facebook that I actually wound up liking, because people would always share their video, and I was like, it was so consistent in terms of like great information. It was quick, whatever. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? I actually want to know when the next video is out. So I like actually liked it. And so a lot of times now I'm finding that people are like, we want to make a video like AJ Plus, which is interesting. It's like, kind of like when you say, I guess I want Pampers, when, really it's a diaper, but you call it Pampers, the brand,
Yeah. Well, it's also getting addicted to content, and that's how people are then become successful. Is if you keep liking or if you keep watching the same videos, you're gonna crave those videos, and you're gonna need to see what the next video is when it gets released.
Right.
And that's the whole idea of building a market around the media that you're putting out.
Yeah. Well, I think if you start listening to Media on the Radio, you're going to start craving Media on the Radio.
That's right.
And you're going to want to keep listening to whatever's coming next from Devin Gallagher. So, Devin, thanks for coming on the show, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll be right back for the wrap-up.